Hi, this is Ty. Today I'm going to show you how to make this clean and realistic shadow effect in Photoshop. First, place the image that contains the object you want to create a shadow for. Once that's ready, we'll start by cutting out the object that will cast the shadow. First, select the layer with the object. Then choose the Object Selection tool or Quick Selection tool from the toolbar on the left. Look at the top option bar and make sure the mode is set to cloud. This allows Photoshop to detect edges more accurately. Click Select Subject. If the selection is not perfect, use the Quick Selection tool to add or remove areas manually. Hold the Shift key to add, or Option on Mac and Alt on Windows to subtract from the selection. Once the selection is complete, make sure the correct layer is selected, then press Command and J on Mac, or Control and J on Windows to copy just the selected area to a new layer. Next, we'll create the shadow layer. Duplicate the layer again using the same shortcut. The lower of the two layers will become the shadow base. Right-click on this layer and convert it to a smart object. This will help later when we apply filters or transformations. Now add a new solid color adjustment layer. Choose black for now. Then create a clipping mask by hovering between the two layers and holding Option on Mac or Alt on Windows while clicking. This limits the black fill to only the shape of the object. Now transform the shadow. Select the shadow layer. Press Command-T on Mac or Control-T on Windows to enter Free Transform. Select the shadow layer and hold Command or Control while dragging the edges or corners to stretch it. Make it narrower as it gets farther from the object to create a sense of depth. If the edges of the shadow look too harsh, add a layer mask to the shadow layer, then use the brush tool to softly blend the edges. Paint with black to hide parts of the shadow or white to reveal them. Now let's adjust the color of the shadow. If there's another shadow in the image, use the eyedropper tool to match it. Double-click the solid color thumbnail and pick the right tone. If not, choose a dark color based on the floor or wall. You can move the cursor lower in the color panel to find a realistic shade. Next, we'll apply a blur for realism. Select both the shadow base and fill layers, then convert them into a smart object. Go to Filter, then Blur Gallery, and choose Field Blur. Add blur pins to soften the shadow more as it moves away from the object. Field Blur lets you place pins on the image and adjust the blur level at each point to create smooth depth effects. Click anywhere on the image to add a blur pin, then use the dial next to the pin to increase or decrease the blur at that spot. You can add multiple pins to control the blur in different areas. To add natural fading, apply a gradient mask. Confirm that the shadow layer is selected. Click the Add Mask button, then select the Gradient tool and use the black to white preset. Also make sure this option is selected in the panel on the screen. In this panel, you can choose the shape of the gradient. Drag from the end of the shadow toward the object. This creates a soft fade effect. Now you know how to create a basic shadow. Next, let's try something a bit more advanced. Next, the steps will change starting from the point where we create the shadow layer and convert it into a smart object. By the way, if you want to learn how to create this eye-catching glowing effect, check out this previous video. If your object is close to a wall, you'll want the shadow to bend. Select the Smart Object Shadow layer and go to Edit, then Perspective Warp. Draw two boxes, one for the wall and one for the floor, and connect them. Click Warp and adjust the corners so the shadow follows the surfaces. Be careful to make the wall and floor boundary look natural. After this, follow the same steps again. Go to Filter, go to Blur Gallery and select Field Blur. Increase the blur level for the part of the shadow that is farther away. In this image, the lighting is strong, so we will skip the step where we fade the shadow using a gradient. Next, add a new fill or adjustment layer. Double-click the thumbnail on the left. There is already a suitable color in the image, so we will use it as is. If the floor and wall are different colors, rasterize the shadow layer. Use the polygonal lasso tool to select the floor portion. Use Command or Control and X to cut. Then use Command or Control and Shift and V to paste in place. Now you can treat each shadow part separately. Set color for each one. After setting each color, convert both the shadow layer and the color layer into a smart object. Then apply blur and other effects just like before to finish the design. It's complete. With Photoshop, you can create dynamic, natural-looking shadows that enhance your work. Try this out and give your designs more depth and realism. Subscribe for more creative tutorials. You'll find me on Instagram and TikTok, and my posters are available for purchase too. All the links are in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next week.